Hey folks, how's it going? I'm just up on Binny and Shoes. Have a project just below, which I've just managed to link in one for the first time, which is really nice. You might have noticed that I haven't uploaded a video in a little while, and really the lockdown period while the coronavirus has been going on, it's not been a brilliant time. It's not been a brilliant time for any of us, and for me it's been nothing terrible, you know. It's like there's no disasters happened. It's just not been a very easy time. I obviously understand that many people, if not most people, have had a worse time and bigger, far bigger things to deal with. Nonetheless, it does have an effect. It's perfectly okay if you feel things are difficult to just accept that they are difficult. So there's actually been several videos that I've shot and just not posted or in fact deleted. In fact, just the things that I'm saying just now, I shot here a couple of nights ago standing at the bottom of the crag, and I just didn't post them because I just didn't feel that my thoughts kind of came out in the right way, and they probably aren't right now either. In many ways it's just been easier for me just to get on with what I can do, and actually that's one thing that I wanted to say right now, is just make a comment on what I do in my own life when I just don't feel that everything is going according to the plans and dreams and hopes that I had, and you have to adjust to whatever outside constraints and circumstances you have at the time. And like most things I say on this vlog, there's nothing fancy about it. Basically all I really do is just focus on what I can actually do in the short term. However, I did definitely find that it affected my normal way of looking at problems, looking at the world, and actually just doing day-to-day tasks. I found that I had to expend a lot more mental energy than usual just to do normal things. But I always like to view these things in a practical context. So what did I actually do? Well, the main thing I did was I had some exams to study for and some other coursework to do for my university course, and I just really focused on that, and that absolutely paid off. I did very well in my exams. Like most other climbers, I diligently worked away on my training, and that went reasonably well. Interestingly, one thing that I really learned and appreciated that I maybe hadn't thought of before so much was that normally, even in the winter, even when we have really long spells of quite poor weather, which almost resemble mini lockdowns here in Scotland, I still don't usually spend 3 months straight just on the board. And I imagine that must be even more intense for those of you who were just doing things like fingerboard or weights or canvas boarding. Obviously doing those things is a lot better than not doing them, but I had to really rethink my normal routine and ways of doing things, and reappraise my normal process of listening to my body, just because my routine was so different to how it normally was. So normally in my training routine, variety introduces itself. I don't need to worry about it, because there'll be a couple of weeks or a week of bad weather. I'll do a bunch of training sessions. If it's 1 week, that may be 3, 4, 5, 6 training sessions. If it's a couple of weeks, then it could be double that. And then the weather will take a turn for the better, at least for a day or two. And at least for one session, or maybe longer than that, I'll be outside on the crag like I am tonight, climbing on completely different terrain at a completely different intensity. And you know, you can feel that in the fatigue you feel in your body the next day. The places where you hurt are just different. The mode of exercise is different, and therefore you get a rest from one thing while you do the other, and I think that's very healthy. That's good for your body, and that allows me to maintain a good volume of training without it becoming monotonous and without it potentially becoming dangerous for injuries. So during the lockdown period we've just had, I had about 2 months straight of working quite hard on the board, did a lot of fingerboarding, made some good gains on the fingerboard actually. Things that I've never done before, like hanging on one hand on a 20mm edge with a dumbbell in the other hand, just a very small one, 4 kilos, but nonetheless I was delighted with it because I've never done it before. I also had realised that my upper body power had declined slightly over the winter because I was just out climbing all the time. Even though I was bouldering, I was doing very fingery bouldering, so that sort of pull down strength had declined slightly. So I did a bit of work foot off bouldering initially, and then on the canvas board with a mix of small and big rungs, but favouring the big rungs. And also I did a fair bit of rings works, and I did things like muscle ups, which I've actually never done before, never tried to do before. So all of those things were great. Then after a while I did notice that I felt a little bit tweaky, and I felt like my body really needed a change or a rest, but a change wasn't really possible, so I just had a rest. I had nearly a full week of off. I think I did maybe one session, so a proper deload week. And then after that, I was actually able to come out to the crag in the past week or so, just because although the lockdown is still very much active here in Scotland, it has relaxed a little bit, so I'm able to come out to the crag 5 miles from my house. I'm very fortunate that this crag is 5 miles from my house, and do a little bit of climbing. So I've just been cleaning a few trad projects. I can't lead them yet. I'm not allowed to lead yet, it's only top roping and bouldering. However, it's been great, absolutely brilliant to be back out, and the effect on my mood, the way I sort of feel about everything, it's just such a lift being able to go outside. Like I say, I've just top roped this project a minute ago and linked it. When I came up the first time after the warm-up, the breeze had dropped, and this spot here, it was a big cloud of midges and I couldn't stay, and I was actually about to leave and go back home. But now the wind started again and it's actually got a little bit cold. So I think I might actually go down and have one more link. Maybe one final thing that I should say about starting to come out climbing. One thing that I thought of before I came out was that I felt that I might feel a little bit rusty with my rock climbing, and also everything else to do with moving around in mountains and being safe in mountains and feeling fit in mountains. And I do feel that the first couple of times that I came out to this crag, I did feel rusty in all aspects, everything from the cycling up the hill, the hill, my speed and fitness hill walking, just moving around on tussocky ground and scrambling without a rope on. My rope work was a little bit slower than it should be, and just my movement on the rock was not as sharp as it could be. It's very, very easy to forget how much of a technical sport climbing is in all aspects, from the safety to the actual movement technique and performance itself. So I did think that when I started, I would give myself time to ease back into rock climbing, and to do it quite gently, so that I was safe, so that I wouldn't have any accidents. I've actually heard from at least 2 other climbers who have come straight out of the lockdown and almost on their first day out climbing actually had a really bad accident. So I'm not really putting any pressure on myself to get back into doing hard or serious rock climbing. I can't do it anyway because of the rules here in Scotland, but I think that's probably a good thing, to give myself time just to get moving on the rock and get used to being a rock climber again instead of just being a fingerboarder and a 45 boarder. At the moment I'm just very thankful to have my health and to be here outside on a crag looking at this view. Here we go, let's do another link. Oh, cool. Well, that was just linked for a second time in a row, so pretty pleased with that. The last couple of days have been the first time that I've come back here since I did that E10 in October, and I was trying that route for a long time, and although I've done other routes at this crag, it was really all about that one that was dominant in my mind. And so when I finally did it, and then obviously I had the winter away, then coming back here, it's been really strange. And I've had that with lots of other places where I've had really big projects that I've spent a long time on, places I like to climb and I like to go back to, but I had a hard project and then did it. I find it almost difficult to go back there, even though there's other climbs that I want to do. They represented breaking a barrier, solving a problem, changing my view of my own capabilities. And so once I'd sort of answered that question, can I do it, then it's almost like I needed to move on to something else, somewhere else, something else, and that going back to that same place just felt really odd. And so I'm kind of getting that right now. It's kind of odd to be trying easier routes, even though they're still hard. I mean, this route that I'm trying just now, it's going to be a tough lead. One thing I think it tells me is that I really like to have super hard projects take me a long time. I really thrive on that. I think I just love the problem solving. I love the uncertainty of it, and I just can't get enough of that. And with easier projects, although you've got to work out moves, you've got to work out gear, you've got to train, all these things, ultimately, like this route that I'm trying now, it's E8, I know I can climb that. It's just a matter of how quickly I can solve the problems. But with that route, I did not know if I was good enough to do it. For a good part of the process, I was like, I don't know. I didn't know if I would ever be bold enough. I was trying to imagine stepping off the ground tied into the lead ropes, and that just made me feel sick. It was extremely important to me right up until the moment I did it, and then not important to me. But asking the question and answering it was important to me, but once answered, move on. Oh, well, that was great. Good session that. It's about 10 o'clock. I'm just walking off the top of Binny and Shuis now. Sun's still out. Absolutely brilliant this time of year. Lovely light on the mountains. So hopefully it won't be too long before I can get a tie on the lead ropes and lead that route. I do feel just about ready. A couple more sort of endurance sessions in the wall, I think, to sharpen up and be ready for it. But that's the first time that I felt good in a while, and I don't just mean good in terms of climbing. I mean, it's the first time I felt good generally for a long time. Being stuck indoors is a really, really unhealthy thing to do, and you know, you kind of get used to it. But I think it's one of these things that it's only when you go outside and you do things that make you feel really good again that you go, oh yeah, this was how I was meant to feel, this is how I normally feel. And it's such a lift. One of the things I mentioned before was that I had exams during the lockdown, and I'm hopefully soon going to be finishing my degree, but right now one of the other things I've been doing during the lockdown is actually planning a research study that I'll be conducting over the summer. And because all of the lab-based projects have been cancelled due to the coronavirus situation, I'm going to be doing some online survey-based data gathering, and it's going to involve climbers. So I will be asking you to participate in my study quite shortly, and yeah, I really appreciate if you'll be able to spend a very short amount of time just helping me out with that. And I'll see you in the next video.